Hold on.
Yep.
Hold on. Here
I
we go.
forgot.
And complete.
And complete.
We got
and
bars?
complete.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Oh my goodness, that was great. All right, now we're back to Charles. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I just spent a couple weekends out at the beach. Now I'm here today to talk about my favorite Star Wars character of all time and the show that is tremendous and doing him every bit of justice that I was hoping it would. So I'm happy.
Excellent. I'm happy that you're happy, and I hope that Obi-Wan is making you even an iota as happy as this next man makes me every single day. And that's Mr. Wes Jenkins. What's up, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Eric is lying. He's actually really upset with me right now because it's been a long time since we've done this show. I'm excited to do it again finally and talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Bounty Hunt episodes are some of my favorite that we do, so some of the celebration hype has kind of died down just a tad bit, but I'm really excited to talk about the episodes.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. This is your first Bounty Hunt. Welcome to all of you. This used to be a Patreon show, but we realized we have so much fun doing it, and we have such an amazing community that we asked them, hey, can we bring this outside of the paywall? And they said, absolutely. So this is the show where we kind of go through all the shows, which we can say now because there's so many Star Wars television shows because we live in a great world. We're going to recap the show, full spoilers, and then we're going to talk about what we loved. We used to kind of give it a rating beforehand and a rating afterwards, but we've kind of abolished the ratings on the book roundtables because we realized that doesn't really fit with our mission. And fellas, we haven't really discussed this yet, but I feel like we should abolish them for Bounty Hunt as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You know? Why
Yep,
would we number these things we love? Let's just say if we dug it, or say that this one had some good moments,
Yeah,
and we'll do it
sure.
that way. So
I like
before
that.
we recap these first three, because as a lot of you may know, the first two episodes came out when we were at Celebration together. So we didn't talk about it. And the third one came out and time has gone by. So we're going to do all three in one massive episode for you all. We're going to recap the first two that came out at the same time, talk about those for a bit. And then because episode 3 was so massive, we're going to recap that separately, and that'll get its own section of the show. But fellas, before we do that, I just want to go around the horn here real quick and get a general vibe about how we're feeling about Obi-Wan. Did you have massive expectations coming in? Were they met? What do you think the general direction of the show is so far? Just some kind of foundation for our conversation. And Charles, of course, I'm starting with you, buddy. How is Obi-Wan treating you these first 3 episodes?
I think that this show has been fantastic. I tried very hard to come in without expectations, but when it's your favorite character, when it's your favorite actor coming back to play that character, there's going to be a little something there. But I think really far and away, so far, this show has checked every box for me. I've had tremendous fun every episode. I feel like the decisions they've made, even the ones that have surprised me, actually feel right. They feel like something that's believable for this character and kind of his journey and his transition from episode 3 to episode 4. So I've loved it. I think one of the biggest things that I'll just mention right off the top that I think really threw me, that was not the direction I thought the show was going to go in, was the inclusion of young Leia. And when she first came on screen, I was like, oh, this is a cool moment that we're going to see. And then we're going to leave this and go to Obi-Wan. And maybe this was just a little Easter egg type scene. No, that's like the whole plot of the show. So that's been pretty incredible. But so far, I really liked what they've done with it. And that actress, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but
Vivian Lyra Blair.
Okay, Vivian Lyra Blair has been phenomenal, I think, as young Leia. Very believable that she would turn into who we see later on screen. So, no number to give you, but if I was giving numbers, it would be high.
Excellent. Amazing foundation. Love all that. Also agree that I thought Leia was only building up the natural Bail Organa introduction, which will get its full due in just a couple minutes. But Corey, how about you? Base thoughts on Obi-Wan before we dive in.
Yeah, I think I had more trouble managing expectations for this particular project than I did anything else that's ever come out with Star Wars in the last couple of years since we've been doing Utini. I mean, Utini has changed my perspective about watching Star Wars, period. But like, it was impossible to keep them in check for the show. We were all just so excited for it, and having Ewan and Hayden back is just mind numbing. And I gotta say, this show has totally exceeded all of my expectations. Like, I've never felt like so confidently like reading discourse online, like some of the stuff that people have said about the show. Like, I am so confident the show is amazing. I'm loving it so much that like it doesn't even phase me. Like sometimes discourse can really ruin the taste of a show to you, right? Like, but it's not me. It hasn't ruined it at all. Like, I'm just like, yeah, that guy's wrong. Sorry. Like, I just love it. Like, it's so good. It's checking, like Charles said, checking every single box. I'm absolutely loving the show. More so, I think, than any other live action Star Wars project so far. I mean, it's been an utter blast. Every single episode has just melted my face. The fact that we get to see them at Celebration 2 was just icing on the cake, and it's going to probably hold a very special place in my memory for the rest of my life. So, you know, it's been a wild ride. I'm really enjoying the show.
Yeah, I love that reaction of the, you know, any kind of hot take or criticism in I would say not faithful ways, right? Like criticism based on hatred and things the shows may have gotten is so ridiculous that the quality of the show, I'm the same way, Corey, has made me feel like, oh, that's dumb. And then just like kind of moved on in a way that sometimes it hasn't
you
even
don't like
registered.
the little girl? Too bad. You're an idiot. Like, like
that's objectively dumb. Sorry.
Exactly. It's been very easy where it hasn't in some other things in the past. So, you know.
Yeah. Wes, how about you, dude?
So I managed my expectations going into this. So I was thinking, like, how are they going to get Hayden involved due to the Vader suit? So we do have 3 more episodes left, but I mean, what they have done so far with getting us off Tatooine and then hopefully coming back, is crazy. And yeah, like you said, with young Leia, like you could tell the instant she sat up in the trees and was just like naming off some of the starfighters or some of the fighters that were like, you could tell that was Leia. She did such a great job. But the only thing I can hear every time I see these episodes, 3 episodes now, is the Obi-Wan Kenobi theme and us being like being there for the first playing with John Williams at Celebration, and it is in like pretty much most of the episodes in, you know, different parts of his theme, and I think it's incredible. I love that theme now. So that I'm real big on the music in Star Wars, and this one really knocked it out of the park for sure.
John Williams starting off obviously with that was incredible. Natalie Holt, we're going to talk about her a ton, is just conducting a master class, like she did with Loki as well. I can't agree more. For me, I'm just combo of all 3 of you guys. For me, this is pretty easily, I will say, the best introduction of a live action Star Wars show we've gotten so far. I know we're like halfway through it, which is a little different.
It's crazy to say.
I know, right? It's a miniseries, but
we've definitely never felt like this in a midway point of a show.
No,
no. It's definitely not felt like this.
No, and I think for me, the real difference in Obi-Wan is that I think every single element is firing at the exact same pace. The acting, directing, the writing, the effects, the music, everything is at the same exemplary level. Whereas I think those levels are reached in other Star Wars projects all the time. Don't get me wrong. We had these really amazing acting moments, the effect shots, the fights, they each have their times in the sun. But Obi-Wan, it feels like, because of the united vision of Deborah Chow, of Ewan McGregor, of everyone being on the exact same page for the exact same episode, the entire project, it's just like, yes. This show freaking rocks. If you want, I guess, a commentary about things they could fix in it in Obi-Wan in the future, I hope you enjoy our other podcast. But for what we're going to do here, let's
not this show.
Not this one, baby. This is all love. Let's jump into the first 2 episodes, aptly named Part 1 and Part 2. And we're going to do a brief recap on what happened in them, and then let's go into what we loved. So we begin the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. The first thing we see because they're all sick bastards at Lucasfilm, is Order 66 again. In a flashback, a group of younglings get absolutely terrified by the 501st coming into the Jedi Temple. Their Jedi Master does what they can to save them, but eventually they have to run. We then come back to the modern day, quote unquote, and it is Inquisitor time on Tatooine. We meet the Grand Inquisitor. We meet Reva, the third sister. They're looking for a Jedi. And is it Obi-Wan? It is not. It's actually one of the Safdie brothers who outs himself as being a Jedi in the middle of a cantina and runs away. We then find old Ben Kenobi just working on a job, trying to keep himself alive, staying in hiding. We find his workplace, we find his Aope, and we find his little hermitage where we meet Tika, the Jawa, who is selling Ben's own parts back to him and not even bothering to clean them first. However, he does sell good old Ben Kenobi a toy. Luke's toy that we see in A New Hope, and he pays him 75 credits or so. Ben then, under the cover of darkness, goes to the Lars homestead to drop off the toy to Luke and runs into the other Jedi in the wastelands. The Jedi begs Obi-Wan Master to help him out. Obi-Wan says, the war is over. We lost. Hide. We then, very unexpectedly, for some of us, go to Alderaan. Alderaan gets more screen time than it's ever gotten in any piece of media before, and we meet little Leia, who is a little scamp and runs away from her official duties with her droid Lola. She then, picks out little starfighters, like Wes was saying earlier, in the sky, and is eventually found out and has to go back and do some official duties. Back on Tatooine, Owen Lars throws the toy at Obi-Wan's feet and calls him out and tells him to stay out of Luke's way. And Owen says, you know what? You're not afraid for Luke. You're afraid if he shows, gives him a massive burn, and then stands up to Reva, who asks him where the Jedi is, but Owen is steadfast. Back on Alderaan! It's bail time, baby. Bail Organa, our Lord and Savior, enters the show, is an amazing dad, has a great party where Leia devastates her childhood cousin, and then Bail has to parent her by saying, good job, kid, but we still have to say we're sorry. Leia then runs off for fun, but is kidnapped by Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Bail and Bria then call Ben Kenobi, their only friend, to say, hey, she's in trouble. You gotta take her back. Obi-Wan is afraid. He is no longer the Jedi he used to be and denies the call. Bail then comes to Tatooine in person and begs him to help. So Ben goes into the desert and finds a box featuring 2 lightsabers of Obi-Wan and Anakin. Reva is then revealed to be the mastermind behind Leia's kidnapping to draw out Obi-Wan because she knows of his relationship with Bail from the archives, and Obi-Wan, lightsaber in tow, heads off to the planet Daiyu. In episode 2, we land on Daiyu, where Obi-Wan meets a young girl who is Ewan McGregor's actual daughter. Very fun. And she tells him about a Jedi he can meet called Haja Estri, played by Kumail Nanjiani, who is a con man, but is actually trying to help Force-sensitive children off planet for a couple credits. Despite these falsehoods, Haja Estri gives Obi-Wan a lead to a Glitterstim warehouse where he goes, finds Leia, and after a little bit of a scuffle, takes her throughout the city. An APB goes out for Ben Kenobi. Leia sees this, immediately distrusts him, and bolts. During the chase, however, Obi-Wan has to use the Force finally to save Leia, but is caught in the middle of a firefight. Haja Estri provides a diversion to Reva and the other people to help Obi-Wan escape, but she gets Obi-Wan's location from his mind and confronts them at a cargo port, which leads to the Grand Inquisitor getting stabbed and Reva proclaiming to end the episode, Anakin Skywalker is alive. All right, boys. This was a hell of a 1-2 to start the series. So as we go into it, let's talk about just the opening of the show. We got Order 66. We start out hot, and then we go to the Inquisitors. We're starting off very dark, very evil. How did you like this particular choice to start out with this much before we even see good old Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah. I do want to say, because I don't know when the listeners, when you guys are listening to this, if you're listening to it, very close to the release of Obi-Wan, or maybe you're going back and listening to this many months, years down the road, and for some reason care what, the Living Force hosts have to say about this Kenobi show. But I do want to kind of tell the story of what it was like to get to see this as Celebration.
Yes,
momentarily. I know we've talked about it briefly in the last episode of Living Force, but for prosperity's sake, I feel like we should tell it. So Eric, Wes, and I all had the privilege of being at Celebration and also winning the lottery for this particular panel, for the first panel of the day, which means that we got to be given a special band that got us into a stage later at night, and we got to watch this all together. Now, Wes, you did get to see this, correct? Early? Didn't they show it on the other stages too?
Yes. So I was picked for the lottery. So it was a random drawing for all the people who were attending Celebration of the main panels for the 4 days Celebration was going on. And this was the main one. I did not get the Celebration stage, which is the big stage that had all the actors come out. You could see them live. I got a streaming stage, which was done in a different building, but it was just as good. We had just as many.
It's like being in a movie theater.
Yeah.
It's a really large screen and stuff too. So Charles, unfortunately, did not get to go to Celebration because of his shitty doctor job. And
you just
that's what
keep
it is.
reminding me.
Keep reminding me. I'm so sorry. I know of all folks that, I would have given my own ticket to give Charles to get into that, heartbeat. So, I hate you weren't there with us, man. But I do have to say that getting to watch 2 episodes early, we got to see him a couple hours early than the rest of the world. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came out and said, "Hey, this is a surprise. We're gonna let you guys see it early." And they really did roll out the whole red carpet, literally. I mean, they had the actors out and they gave us popcorn and drinks and took us in.
They had a couple Volkswagen cars.
Yeah, all
see,
wrapped out with Kenobi
that's the
stuff, all the
thing.
costumes. They had all these costumes.
I did not get
stuff.
I did not get popcorn and drinks and snacks.
Yeah.
They just gave me a seat
Sucks.
that had a pad on it, which was fine.
Well, you got a pad on it? All right. See, we didn't get that.
So Eric and I sat with, I don't know, what do you think, 10 or so UTini members?
About 8 to 10 folks, yeah.
8 to 10
And
folks.
we
all
were at
watched
the
it
top
together.
of the arena. Because when we got in,
Good
we
seats.
figured out let's get all together. We wanted a main row because that was really what was going to be amazing about it. And I'm so glad we did, because the ability to watch these episodes and then look down the road and be like, "Oh my god, it's happening! Oh my goodness!" was a very
really
intense,
cool.
emotional
It's
moment.
it's the first time that any of us have ever watched. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. First time any of us have ever watched the first episode. Not even the first episode, a live action that they premiere. I've never watched a premiere of an episode with anybody except for you guys in Asheville that one time. It's the only time ever. So to do that with a bunch of UTini friends, live in person with 5,000 people, that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. That was absolutely the highlight of this celebration. Just as watching the trailer, you guys have heard me tell that story. Watching the trailer of The Rise of Skywalker was my highlight of the last celebration. This was the big one for this, and the energy in the room was incredible. Wes, you even said, even though you weren't at the main stage, it was still nuts for you guys, saying the energy was just crazy and everyone cheers and it's really fun. And it was really cool. It was a good time. I think, to go back and answer your original question, Eric, I think my experience is going to be somewhat colored by this glorious experience that we had, probably forevermore, which, maybe rightfully so.
Why not?
Rightfully so. But I will say, from a content perspective, I think this was maybe the strongest opening of any live action show we've ever seen. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was just super, super good. I mean, it was shocking. We got all this stuff from the trailers. We're all in the first couple episodes, and then they threw in Leia, which was not in anything. I don't know about you guys, but that completely took me for a loop. I did not expect that even the slightest bit, and I wasn't even convinced that was what I was seeing when they showed it on screen for the first time.
Well, I think also we have to talk a little bit about the fact that they open with Order 66, and they open it in that tranquil. It was like a tranquil moment at first with all the young Jedi
They're all
learning.
training. Oh, what a great moment!
Lightsaber forms.
Yeah,
and then here come the clone troopers, man. And and I think we all knew it. As soon as we even saw those little Jedi training, but it makes sense. It makes sense to open with this. How do you do a show set in the time period immediately after this massive event? And not have it wasn't something I went into the episode expecting, they're going to show us Order 66. But when it was happening in front of me, I was like, this makes so much sense. And it really does do a great job of setting that dark tone that you're talking about, Eric, because this show, I mean, Revenge of the Sith is a tragedy. This show is all the fallout from a tragedy. And we more or less see a hero of ours for quite a long time fallen from grace. And what better way to kind of set that stage than the defining moments, from
sure.
Revenge of the Sith. So it was pretty perfect to me.
And what I loved especially about it too is that we watching episode 3 see the darkness kind of grow. So by the time we get to Order 66, we've seen Anakin chop off Mace Windu's hands. We've seen Palpatine give the lightning shot. Like we know this is all going down, but all the Padawans in the temple had zero idea. And I think that's something that I've never quite seen put in visual media, at least this perfectly, was like, they're not fighting on Kashyyyk. They're not fighting Grievous. Like, even the good guys are fighting. Like, these Padawans were just doing very peaceful exercises and just kind of living their lives as kids. And then all of a sudden, murder immediately.
Yeah.
Like that.
It was
that
dark and
shifted.
scary too.
Yeah,
like
it was scary.
It was a scarier version, I think, of Order 66 than we've ever seen before. I think it being a live action really helped, but like just the angles and like how she would like the master. I'm not sure who it was. The master would like deflect a bunch of lightsaber bolts, then grab a kid by the hand and like pull them through the next door. Like it just seemed
awesome.
Yeah.
It seemed very scary, like parents trying to protect their kids. Like it was just very scary.
Yeah.
The lightsaber, like her blocking the bolt, like all of that action and that like those lightsaber moves it's something we haven't seen even in episode 2 when they had the battle on Geonosis. So like it was some crazy moves that they were putting in there, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Just that first 20 seconds. That was it.
Yeah.
What a way to start.
No, I have seen a lot of thoughts online that there is a young black girl child in the group too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories online that this is probably Reva, and like maybe it is. Like that would certainly explain her sort of anger. We've seen this in Inquisitors before, particularly in Jedi Fallen Order, right? Like we saw a similar story arc where someone was not really cool with the Jedi after all that.
I mean, what a perfect way to take that, and then let's just go with it, because the next scene we get is the introduction of Reva and the Grand Inquisitor and Fifth Brother. Obviously, gonna take 5 seconds to say there's been some royal horrific people that said awful things to Moses Ingram online. They aren't worth our breath, not worth our time, and Ewan McGregor himself kicked him out of the fandom. Bye-bye, don't need you.
Agreed.
Anyway, now that's gone. These three coming out of this ship, which is a Lego set I have already pre-ordered. That's coming in September.
I was gonna ask you.
Oh yeah.
In your defense, it is a really sweet looking shuttle. It's black and scary and
it's
menacing.
Fast. It comes in and lands like quickly.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And they start off strutting around. The Grand Inquisitor gets this great monologue off about what it means to hunt a Jedi. The Jedi hunts themselves. And then really Reva basically eventually says, I'm tired of this, and throws a knife at a guy to bring out a Jedi. So what did you guys think about the Inquisitors as a whole, and more specifically probably like Reva, because she is really kind of the pseudo-antagonist for this series, the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I will say that there's been talk about, I don't like how the Grand Inquisitor looks or this, that, the other thing. I think he looks great. I think the performance has been really good. It is slightly different than what we saw, animated, but I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me that it'd be slightly different. You're absolutely right. The monologue that he opens with is incredible. I love his delivery of all of that. And,
it's so
and there's a moment in particular, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but he's like, you hear a lot of rumors in my line of work. Like, here's what I heard recently. And I was just like, my, this is amazing.
It was scary and intimidating. And
it was.
It made it seem like everybody was very afraid. Like it was very confident.
Well, and it works so well because not only was he using it to intimidate everyone in that bar and to bring the Jedi out of hiding, he was also lecturing Reva in that moment. What's the most important thing about hunting Jedi? Patience. And Reva, showed that she didn't have it in that moment. And she continues to show that throughout the episode. I find her very convincingly unhinged and just it feels like no one is going to be able to control her. And that's probably going to be her downfall. I mean, I would assume so. She just kind of goes a little bit too far, but I really like the performance so far. I like not only the back and forth with the Grand Inquisitor, but the back and forth Yes, wonderful shot there. The back and forth with, who is it? The fifth brother.
Fifth brother, yeah.
Brother.
Yeah, I like their dynamic that develops later on, that they're kind of in competition with each other as well. I love bringing the Inquisitors into this.
Yeah, they fit so naturally in a way that I never would have expected even a couple of years ago. And I love you saying that about Reva, because for me, she is so like visceral when she gets angry, and like she will singe people, she will kill people, but
Yeah.
she's also so controlled and collected in her vocal tones when she needs to be. And it reminds me of, it's the simmering pot that like the lid is on, but there's bubbles that are right there. The volcano is like, it's right there. And it's like, man, if this explodes, everyone will die. And she is just, no, I'm great. I'm in control. I'll be your friend. Oh, I will cut your fingernails off. Like, it's just like, I don't really know where she's going to go. And I think even the Grand Inquisitor doesn't sometimes, which makes her just so enticing, especially once we get in episodes 2 and 3. Like episode 2, when she was doing the run on the rooftops of Dayu and it's like doing backflips and all these things. I'm like, yeah oh man, you better run.
Parkour. I thought it was super interesting. Sorry, Corey.
No, go ahead.
I thought it was super interesting how they said that the Inquisitors were former Jedi, because this is 10 years after Order 66, right? So I guess they would have to be roughly 8. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to be an Inquisitor. You have to be 18 to do that, but
but probably.
Well, listen, it is implied. It is implied later on that like Force-sensitive kids keep disappearing, and it's sort of implied that they're becoming Inquisitors or being killed, I suppose. But
it's one or the other.
There.
I thought that they were just
Palpatine was robbing babies from their cradles in the Clone Wars. I mean,
it's
right. I love the.
Yeah, did they come about and they say, "Hey, I want to be an Inquisitor. I want to hunt Jedi, and I want to have to. I don't want to be part of the whole Jedi Accord."
Yeah.
Now, the other 2 Inquisitors are also fantastic. The funny hat guy, he is very scary.
Fifth brother, who's Han from the Fast and Furious movies.
Yep.
Oh, I thought I recognized him.
Oh,
that's correct.
Kang,
Yep. Yeah, he's really scary. And then the other girl with her, like, she looks like the devil, like straight up.
Yeah.
I don't know what species she is, but she's got those like side, like
the fourth
tendrils.
Yeah. She's in the later in the Fortress, fourth sister. Yeah.
That's right. She looks scary. Big fan of the Inquisitors as a whole. The Grand Inquisitor seems very powerful and scary. When Reva threw that knife and he didn't even move to catch it in the Force was really cool. Big fan of that. I love the use of the Force when it's casually powerful. I love that in Star Wars. Like when we saw Kylo Ren catch the blaster bolt, in Force Awakens, like stuff like that. I really love. Like when they would sort of defy odds with Force usage. Big fan of the Inquisitors. I was sort of in the camp of his head looks a little funny. There you go. There's that knife shot. I was sort of in the camp of his head looks a little funny before the show, but I'm already used to it. I'm already used to it. So it's hard. We've talked about this before. It's hard going from animation to live action. I felt the same way about Ahsoka, but now I'm used to it. So, here we are.
And of course, then we get their awesome scene. The Jedi leaves, and someone that does not have to go from animation to live action, but live action to more live action is the man of the hour. Of course, the guy we all came to see in the first place. No, we're not on Alderaan yet, you sillies. It is, in fact, Ewan McGregor. We see him. A lot of silence to start. Just a lot of maintenance. He's working a job. There's a gonk droid. He's on the speeder. He's in contemplation. Charles, start us off here, man. What is it that makes Ewan's performance over these first few episodes, I would argue, more magnetic than anything he's ever done before? Like, I cannot take my eyes off of him.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's a good question. I just think that he has very intentionally acted a lot without using his voice. Just like you're saying, there is a lot of silence. There are a lot of just small mannerisms that really clue you into how hopeless, how broken this guy really is, like at this point in his story. And I think seeing these little moments, like like when the foreman, where he's working, threatens the guy in front of him when he gets half of his pay, and then he threatens Obi-Wan, and he's silent. He's riding in the transport and he just has his head down and he's just minding his own business. All these little moments then that are sort of counterbalanced with the quiet moments in the cave when he's asking for Qui-Gon's help and just getting absolute silence. And those are exact moments, I mean, basically pulled from John Jackson Miller's Kenobi. Like we saw, the struggle to talk with Obi-Wan. And those were some of the most powerful moments in that book. So I'm really glad that we're seeing, he wasn't already in contact with Qui-Gon through all of this. Like he is very much alone. He's trying, and like physically and through the Force as well. So it's those things. But another really cool thing I think that Ewan has done is he's changed his voice a little bit. Like the cadence that he's using is a little bit of what he's done in the past, but also a little bit of Alec Guinness. And you're kind of, you feel very much like you have one foot in both worlds. And I found that to be really helpful too. So I don't know. I already thought he was the strongest actor through any of the prequels. And I just still think he absolutely blows me away every episode.
Yeah, there's that old cliche of, oh, the camera loves you, the camera loves you. I think very specifically, Deborah Chow's camera loves Ewan McGregor. I think that for director and actor together, they are a pairing, honestly, similar to like Rian Johnson and Adam Driver in The Last Jedi. Like Adam Driver's face and mannerisms just attract to Rian Johnson's style of shooting so well, and that Kylo/Ben is so interesting to see in the way those shots are sculpted. And I think in Obi-Wan, I'm seeing the same thing with Ewan's face. Like wherever Deborah Chow puts the camera and focuses on him, it's always for the exact right amount of time. It's always exactly at his eye line. If he needs to flicker his eyes just to do some emotion, because there's a lot of introspective looks that Ewan does in these first couple, it's never closed off. Even if he's looking down or looking around, it's still open. And I give Deborah Chow a lot of credit for kind of working around him to like give him that, I guess, freedom of expression. Yeah. And like you said, Charles, in the meditation in the cave, I find that absolutely he can even be alone in a crowd, which I like as he's around these people, you still never lose track of where he is. And I think
the directing and camera work is incredible. I'm glad you touched on that. Like just the shots and the long shots and the silence, and it really highlights the monotony. Like he cuts an extra piece of meat at the end of his shift, and he showed that 3 times in the same episode. It's like, it's just, they really did it without saying it. It really did a good job of showing that Obi-Wan has changed, right?
Yeah,
like
he is Ben.
Different.
Like Ben is a different persona.
Exactly,
it really is, and I never got that.
I think it was. Yeah, and it was the moment when the Jedi in the bar sort of caught him in the desert. Like that was a little scary. Like he came out of nowhere. It was dark. He was walking, he was alone. Obi-Wan got kind of scared for a second. Then the guy came out. He says, "Master, it's me." And Obi-Wan refused to even admit to him that he is Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Jedi Council. Like one of like 12 people, right? Like 12 people is most important people in the entire freaking Jedi Order. And he's just like, he wouldn't even acknowledge it, man. And like, that was the moment for me when I knew the show was going to be really dark and heavy, and it really set the tone. I feel like for the rest of the series was this moment when he pulls out the lightsaber and Obi-Wan just looks at him and he's like, "Hide, we lost." Like this is so counter to the Obi-Wan that we left in episode 3. Completely counter to that, right? I mean, he walked away from Anakin as if he won, right? Like he thought he won, and
when he charged into the temple with Yoda. Like it was him and Yoda. That was it. And like this Padawan that escaped, we don't know if he was at the temple when it all happened, but like there's a possibility that he saw Obi-Wan and Yoda triumphant. And like they were the only two. And now he's like, "Oh, I found you again. You were the last hero I ever knew. And after 10 years, oh my goodness, now you're telling me to give up?"
No.
Like
and then he's dead a few minutes later in the city. He's hanging from the sign the entry in the sea. That was dark as hell, and I was just like, oh my god. Like, and Obi-Wan like sees it and just kind of moves on. It's just like this is different Obi-Wan, and they totally nailed the way that he sort of left behind his empathy and his Jedi ways, and all that was very prevalent in the book, the John Dexter Miller Kenobi book, and this was very true to that. I feel like,
yeah, and even when he was in his cave and he was trying to meditate, or he woke up from a horrible dream and he was trying to get in contact with Qui-Gon and he wasn't able to. So that was something else that kind of floored me, because I thought obviously Yoda sent him more training to be able to commune with Qui-Gon, and
for 10 years.
Yeah, we didn't get Qui-Gon. Do we get Qui-Gon?
And it's important. It's important too to remember that the 10 years, right? Because yes, it's never going to fully match up that Ewan McGregor's luscious locks turned into Alec Guinness's migrating wig in 10 years time.
That is a statement that I would like to put somewhere.
It's pretty good.
But seriously,
pretty good.
That'll never 100% line up, and that's fine. Yeah, Tatooine has 2 sons, and it's harsh. And look at me, I would be destroyed by that as well. But I really think it's important to stress how alone Obi-Wan is, how little interaction he has with anyone. Because even in those moments when he's home, he can't even get through to Qui-Gon. And Corey and I can at least speak to what isolation does to people. We normally see that in like elderly people who become isolated, and they lose a lot of their functionality, both mentally and physically. And I think we see both of those things from Obi-Wan. Not that he's elderly, of course, but that isolation would take a toll on you in all those different arenas of life. And so later on, we do see him struggle physically, and I know we'll get to that, but we also see him struggle mentally, and all of that actually does check out for me.
Yeah, like his buddy is Tika. Like that scene is so fun because he's like playful, but you know that in a core part of him, he's kind of hoping that Tika's gonna come by. Because he's the only one that does. On that note, Charles,
that was a great scene, by the way. The comedy was phenomenal. He was just like, you at least clean him before you return him to me. That was fantastic.
That costs extra.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
If you're going to rob me, and it's so fun. And that was absolutely the Alec Guinness-ness of it, as you were saying, Charles. Like the cadence of it was so good. The comedy of it is so fun, and it shows how Ben has really become a person of the deserts there. And we go from now the most emotionally kind of, not stunted, but I would say like hurt, kind of closed off person, to the most, I would say, emotionally open person in the show. The second star, I would say, at this point of the show. We go to Alderaan. We see it in all of its glory, which someone put on Twitter, like, had we seen Alderaan before? I'm like, yeah, we get those 5 seconds at the end of Revenge of the Sith when Bail brings baby Leia in. Great. We get a lot of Alderaan.
Yeah.
And we get that little fake out with it not being Leia. And then we see her. God, this planet is incredible. It's really, really gorgeous. And we get Leia having fun. And I just want to start this. I want to start off before we get to Leia just by, again, if you heard it on the last week's show, that's great. If you haven't yet, when Bail came on screen, I'm not saying I had the same reaction to Charles when this show was announced. It was one of the most joyous experiences of Celebration because we had no inkling that Bail was going to be in this show, or no confirmation. We thought maybe for a second, but we got scene after scene after scene. I thought Bail was handled perfectly. Jimmy Smits still got it. Best space dad. The smirks, the fashion, every possible thing. And I was just so thrilled and blown away that we got Bail, Bria, and Leia in such an this clip makes me just smile so much. But he was just so incredibly handled. And I think we got to talk a bit about what we said earlier about Vivian Blair being such an amazing precursor to Carrie. I mean, she grows up to be Carrie Fisher in 9 years easily. And what did you guys think it was about her performance that made her such a convincing Leia that allowed us to kind of get over the shock quickly enough to like get her into the story?
She had an attitude, right? Yes! She has the attitude to be Leia.
Fiery, man.
She has such a great cadence. She has a great personality. She's very quick-witted. I mean, I'm amazed. How old is she? I don't know if I can put.
She
I still can't put words
10
into
years old
sentences.
yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So when they
Actress
filmed
did.
this, she was probably 8.
Incredible.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. Really, really good. And like, I loved all the portrayal of this character, and I was shocked by this. I was very moved when we watched this live, like seeing the montage of going from the darkness of Obi-Wan and Tatooine to the lighthearted music and showing the buttoning up of the dress, and like then it's it's playful and it's fun. It was a
It was like
beautiful
Bridgerton.
turn.
It was like they're
Yeah,
going to a ball. I was like, yeah,
it was.
awesome.
It was really, really, the music was phenomenal. And like changing gears to this was a very great choice. And I've seen a lot of talk online about like Filoni is really good at telling the the lone wolf and the cub kind of
Lone Wolf and Cub, yeah.
That the trope, lone wolf and
Yep.
cub trope or whatever is very
Mhm.
good. But I love it. I mean, it's just fantastic. And getting Leia, I mean, you're right, Wes. They totally nailed her. I mean, she's like just like sassy and sarcastic and funny and rebellious. Like it's just exactly what I imagine Princess Leia of Alderaan to be. So
Yeah.
I get it.
I think
Yeah.
not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but the whole lone wolf and cub thing, I think works particularly well for Star Wars because of how generational things are already within the story, like the Skywalker saga, but also the audiences, right? Because there are a lot
Yeah.
of us who, maybe are of the age that we're starting to have children or things like this. And Obi-Wan was our hero. And now, we're seeing young Leia. And I'm sure that the young fans are identifying with young Leia in this show a lot. So I think that's part of the reason it works so well. The other thing is it's incredibly important if you're going to do that for the young character, whoever it is, to be very strong. And like Grogu took the world by storm, right? In Mandalorian. So that was that. But this.
But also, that actor was 50. Charles.
Yeah. Okay.
He looks young.
That's true.
But...
That's true. He looks young.
We also have to acknowledge the risk of the writing by the writing team to bring in such a young actress. Like Star Wars does not have a great history with young actors and actors. I mean, it notoriously destroyed Jake Lloyd's life, like in a really sad, tragic way. And in real life, and the guy, has frequently talked about the trauma and the issues that he's had that he largely blames to being thrown into the stardom at such a young age. And like, so that was a big risk. And they gave her a lot of dialogue. Like she has a lot of dialogue, which is a huge risk to give an 8-year-old actor like ship names. Like
she mentioned, it might be a ranger, which like she could be talking about like the Rangers of the Republic show. Like she was responsible for a lot of the weight of the show.
I've had zero complaints whatsoever about the actress's portrayal of this character. It's so utterly believable. I mean, it's so utterly believable. I mean, if you wanted to pick a single piece of criticism that's funny to me, it's not even real criticism, is the chase scene where the bad guys are kind of chasing her. I've seen a lot of funny stuff online. I've seen some really funny TikToks of people like acting like they're being chased. They're just like running really slow and something falls over right in front of them. And they can't get by it. And it's really goofy and funny, but like, it feels like a funny Star Wars trope to me. It doesn't even bother me. Like, it doesn't feel like it's bad creativity or anything. It just feels like this is tried and true goofy Star Wars trope that has been around forever, since the beginning of goofy stuff happening, like the stormtrooper hitting his head on the helmet. I mean, on the door, right? I mean, it just has that sort of comedic value that makes it fun, I think, in a lot of ways. So
and she had so much fun with the physical stuff, and also had so much fun with her wordplay. Especially, I'm thinking at the party with the Organas, where Bale and Bria are trying to talk about what needs to fix in the galaxy, and people are like, I don't care, I just want to hang out and drink your wine, eat your food. And her cousin comes up and tries to talk a big game, and she just devastates this little dude. But also has a very real question about, like, am I a real Organa? And I thought that was a really interesting conversation to like put in the main light right there, because obviously Leia being adopted by Bale and Bria is very public. Like, they never hid it from her. She asked about her real mother and her real father and things like that. And I thought that was a really nice moment to have, where she can be proud at such a young age of who she is and who her parents are, but still have questions about that. And I think, for folks, I have friends that have adopted kids or are adopted themselves, and I've talked to about this, and they said that really kind of struck a nice chord about being like, that's Leia, that's the hero of the rebellion, that has these questions. And I think if you're a young kid that has been adopted or has a good relationship with your adopted parents, but still has questions about that stuff, how cool that like, no, Princess Leia also had that stuff, and she could still be
Yeah.
strong and still be just as much a part of Alderaan. And that's where I think Bale had his best moment of the series about being like, getting down on one knee and being like, you're gonna rule this place. And that moment of, I don't want to be a senator. And Bale says, well, that's why you're gonna be one of the best. And that is Leia to a T.
I will say, being at Celebration, we had some members of the Utini team who had children. Jared and Tyler and Emily all talked about this at Celebration of what it was like to see such strong parenting, and that was really moving for me to hear their perspective on that. Like, it was really cool, really good parenting moments. The writing was very, very good. The dialogue was very, very good, and was very moving in a lot of ways. Like, I really enjoyed getting to see like Dad Bale. That was really cool.
Yeah. Dad Bale just he fills me up with so much joy. He has such a good time until his daughter gets taken.
Yeah, he's the good cop in that situation. It looks like Brea is the one that lays down the punishment, and he's like, listen, make sure that you do something differently next time, but for now, it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
good
you, Dad.
job.
Just hanging on his leg.
Yeah. I'm proud of you. Say you're sorry, but like kick his ass. Yeah, good job. Like, just great. And then of course, Leia gets taken, and I liked this moment because I think it was in an interview Deborah Chow or you or someone talked about how they were writing the show, and then they got to a moment where the whole show opened up because of one action. And I think this was it, because the question we've all had is, hey, what would actually make Obi-Wan leave Tatooine? What could ever make him do that? And I think that was also obviously Ewan's question, Obi-Wan's question. Like, he says repeatedly, I can't, it's the boy. And the only thing that would be more important or equally as important is Leia. And I think that choice is so obvious now in retrospect, because Bale even says she's just as important as him. You can't pick one or the other. And Bale is also talking to all of us in the fandom at that point. Like, Luke and Leia have always been twins. They've always been equal. And I love that. And I thought that choice to do that, to make that Obi-Wan's kind of call to action, make him spur on that way, was really cool. So I want to ask you guys, what did you think about Obi-Wan's initial reaction to that call? That literally when Brea and Bale got him on the holo, and we're like, you got to get her, and that look of pure fear and denial happened. Like, what did you think about him literally, denying the call to action? That's part of the hero's journey, right?
Sure. Yeah, it was very reminiscent of Luke, of like, I can't go with you to Alderaan. I have things to do here. And what about Uncle Owen? And it's so
join
far.
the Empire.
I know. I do love all these sort of expositional around that too, because like we got the familiar sounding sort of comm signal that we've heard in Clone Wars and other Star Wars projects before. And it was buried deep down in a box, and he had to dig that out of another box, and that was really cool to see just how far he's put this away. And like, it really highlighted the fact that like Bale can't just call up his old pal Obi-Wan, this is like a absolute emergency thing. And then the dialogue and the writing was very beautiful too, of like Obi-Wan saying, no, I can't do this. Like, I have to help the boy. That was what we agreed on, et cetera, et cetera. And he says, the girl is important too. Like, you can just hear the desperation in his voice, and Obi-Wan still refused. And it just goes to show, like, even highlights further just how far, Obi-Wan has kind of fallen, right? I mean, it's a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that he walked away from that call still having refused, it surprised me a little bit, because eventually, of course, this is a TV show, like, he's going to reluctantly take on this job. And I thought by the end of that scene, they'd probably be able to convince him. And the fact that he still said no, and it took Bale coming there in person to really make that happen, that was really important, I think, to show us just how difficult it was going to be to pull Obi-Wan back into things. Yeah,
that was so important, not just because we got another scene with Bale. That was a nice moment, though. I'm glad we did it. But him literally looking him in the eye and saying, like, my old friend, like, I'm coming to you not as a senator, not as a protector of the Jedi we agreed on. You are my literal friend, and my daughter's gone, dude. You're the only one I trust. And I'm like, I think that Obi-Wan has shut him off himself off from personal connections for his whole life to an extent, but really for the last 10 years, 100%. Like that thing has not rang in 10 years. And he now is finally like, oh, I had friends. I was connected.
Wish the iPhone.
I was thinking that too. I was like, man, you really turned on that Game Boy Color at that point and still had a save file. But I like that a lot. Obi-Wan, of course, then we get that great moment of, he puts the cloak back and the lightsaber, and we go onto the ship. And then we get to episode 2, and we get Dayu, right? We've seen this planet in the trailers. I thought it looked as awesome as I hoped it would.
Sick planet, for sure.
Yeah, this planet was dope. Obi-Wan gets pure fish out of water. So this one obviously opens so completely differently from the first one. First one, Order 66, darkness, isolation, all these things. This one is like, all right, we're on a busy planet and it's mystery time, and we are just going right into it. So what do you guys think about this kind of initial landing on Dayu? Because I'll say for me, it reminded me a little bit of like Corellia. This gave me very much Solo vibes.
Yeah, me too.
Look at those 2 aliens that just look like just look like air vents or something. Yeah, like slug people or whatever.
They look like grinolids, kind of.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, maybe that's what the Solo thing is for me. Maybe that's what it was.
I loved this. I love this planet. I mean, you guys heard me. I was most excited for this when we saw it in the trailers. The cyberpunk planet, all about it. It was great. It delivered. I mean, it's seedy and underworldy, and it feels like we covered a large part of the planet in a one episode. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like we were just in one place. Like we were moving around. We were in that guy's the sort of magician guy and his parlor tricks, right? With him closing the vents and stuff. Not with the floors.
Parlor tricks. Damn, that's good.
I know. Yeah, that's what it was, right? And like we got to see that, and then there's some street stuff and hiding in alleys, and there was the rooftop battle and the running on the roofs. But we had a lot of this planet, which is surprising to squeeze this into one episode.
This is a real fast-paced episode, and I like that we had all these different things that were combined in it, and I also like that we kind of got in and out in basically an episode. I think if it was a longer season, like a Mandalorian type thing, maybe it would have been 2 episodes, and you could have gone and dragged it out, but it really kind of flew by nice and quickly, and I like that we didn't have Obi-Wan and Leia apart for too long. Obi-Wan is a Jedi Master. Yeah, he needed some help here and there. Yeah, he needed to find Haja. Yeah, he needed to go to the Glitterstream factory. But eventually we know the meat of the episode is the 2 of them and their connection, and they're on the run. Like, Obi-Wan is on the run this whole series, and I feel like as an audience, we are on the run with him in the story. Like, we are constantly trying to catch up and be one step ahead of the episode ending. And I felt that in this episode quite a lot. And I gotta say, straight up, when he got to the Glitterstream warehouse to find Leia and he put that thing on, I'm like, this is Walter White Breaking Bad Star Wars. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. We've seen Spice on occasion, but have we seen like Glitterstim on screen before, like these kind of like drug factories? I feel like this is the first time for this.
I mean, we've seen it in we saw it in what was the sisters, the 2 twin sisters that people didn't really like in the last season.
Yeah,
we saw that chest of spice get dumped out too.
It had this powdery orange appearance.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Like this. Yeah, he looks like he's wearing a ski mask here. This is in goggles. It was funny.
Yeah,
but like a chemist. I also wanted to say that I really feel like they continued this portrayal of Obi-Wan as a dark and changed man. Like throughout this episode, it wasn't like. So it wasn't like, oh, we've accepted the hero's call to action, and now he's back to an old Obi-Wan. We didn't blow right past that traumatic 10 years he had. This is still the same man, and I gotta say, Obi-Wan is kind of a dick in this episode.
Yeah,
kind of to everybody. Like with that, the guy, I don't know what his name is. What's his name? The one that was doing the tricks and pretending to be a Jedi.
Haja Estri.
Yeah, he was really mean to that guy. Like he was like outside of character Obi-Wan, I feel like we've seen before. He was like, this is no business. I mean, no funny business, straight to the point. You're going to tell me what I want or I'm going to hurt you is the vibe that it had. And I was like, okay, this is.
And then when he went in the back
dark
room
Obi-Wan
of the Glittersim factory too, I mean, in about 2 seconds, he was putting people on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very aggressive and very kind of almost a personal, intimate level of violence.
Where's the girl? I'm like, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although I did like so with Haja Estri, absolutely that was like Kumail Nanjiani, the actor. That's like what he does. That's his shtick. And when it started going, I was a little concerned that it was going to be a bit too much. for me, but I think they pushed it just the right amount
Yeah.
because the fact that now we know because of what happens in the next episode and the end of this one that he actually was funneling those people to safety. Like it wasn't just a con. He was just
Right.
like making money while also helping people. I was like, oh, what a smart move where
Yeah.
he was eccentric, but not like just a dirtbag.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought that made it actually a lot more palatable.
It was kind of left in. I haven't watched this episode twice either. It's kind of left in the dark. I think Reva didn't kill him, confirmed, right?
No,
At the
no,
end?
she just
Like,
takes
it's-
the
no.
map from the map.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
it's
Which I
episode
actually
7, right?
thought,
She
I
takes
I
it from his
expected
mind.
she would kill him.
I did too.
Yeah,
I did too. It was interesting.
Reva doesn't
that
waste.
that she spared him. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I
He was a
figured
good
out.
character. I was a little concerned about him too. I thought it might have a little bit of the what's the Rancor Keepers actor's name
Mal-
from Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. I was afraid it was gonna have Danny Trejo vibes, where it's like, oh, they brought in somebody that's kind of well known, and you know, you've seen him in a
Yeah,
lot of movies
totally.
and stuff. And but it didn't have that at all. He felt like he belonged in the universe, like totally. So
Yeah,
big fan of
Yeah.
that too. That was fun too.
Yeah.
I love the idea of someone pretending to be a Jedi, faking force powers to move the vents and stuff. That was fun. Like we've never seen
Yeah.
anything like that.
She
before. I
knew
really
she
enjoyed
knew he wasn't force sensitive, and so he was
Yeah.
just an annoyance. So she
Yeah.
didn't want to, like you said, waste her time, and she had other things to fight. So like having him be there and as an annoyance to an inquisitor is it's not supposed to be funny, but it's funny.
yeah, yeah. And then of course we get the main part of the episode where Obi-Wan and Leia are reunited, or united, I guess, for the first time because he probably hasn't seen her since Polos Massa.
Mhm.
Like he has
Yeah.
not seen what she looks like. So he sees her, 10 years older, this child that he saw birth, knew her mother, Anakin's daughter, like all at once, very emotional, and then says, okay, we got to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then they decide to hit us in the feels with the freaking Endor outfit that she
Yeah.
puts on, which is amazing, and the gloves. And I want to ask Charles, I want to go to you first on this kind of emotional journey for Obi-Wan. They have a lot of great back and forths, and eventually he talks about her, you remind me of someone that I knew. And what do you think is going through Obi-Wan's mind this whole first, I guess, day with Leia? I mean, this is Anakin's kid and kind of the living embodiment of Padme, and he just has to get her off planet.
Yeah, it feels to me like as reluctant as Obi-Wan was to actually take on the mission, he is also reluctant to form any sort of connection with Leia. Like he is
Yeah.
very curt and short, and he's kind of barking orders at her more or less. And you see some old shades of Obi-Wan in that connection that he had with Anakin coming through. Because you're right, he knows in the back of his mind this is Anakin's daughter. And he's Uncle Obi-Wan, right? Like, I mean, that's who he was supposed to be, at least to this little girl. And
yeah, wow.
and it starts to get through, and he starts to unwillingly kind of form a connection to this girl. And it's partly the Anakin thing, and it's partly, I think, that's kind of the charm and the magnetic personality of Leia, even at this young age. And we see later on she's able to move the galaxy against the Empire, and so that speaks towards Leia as a character as well. But you're absolutely right that things kind of came full circle, or came to a head when he made that comment about, like, you remind me of someone who I used to know. And weirdly enough, though, I have to say that I only thought about Satine the first time
Yeah,
that
I've heard
it's
that.
fair.
I watched the
A lot of
episode.
people online.
Yeah.
have seen that.
Yeah,
Said
which
that.
is like, I don't know, partly I feel like shame on me, but partly I feel like that speaks towards how much the Clone Wars did for the character of Obi-Wan as well. So,
Definitely. Yeah, I think that when he talks about that, the either Satine or Padme thing is interesting because I think it could be up to interpretation, right? I mean, they both were such strong forces in Obi-Wan's life. They both passed so tragically, and he feels responsible for that to an extent. But what a beautiful moment for him to see that in that moment, I think, if it is Padme. If it's Satine, I think it's something different. But for Padme, at least, I think he's being like, at that point, doesn't know Anakin's still alive. So I think he's like, his daughter is okay. And Padme's daughter is okay. and their legacy will live on. Even though I've been in a cave for 10 years, even though I haven't been able to do what I want to do, I am watching this little girl kind of carry on that Padme voice in the Senate.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, at 10, you don't sound like you're 10. Like, it was such a great moment of that, and getting emotional before obviously it gets way darker. And then she immediately starts to distrust him, right? She sees that the APB is out. Reva does that, and Leia's quick on that, because as a 10-year-old, she's like, wait, did you know my dad? What was the password? Is it on you? Are you putting me in more danger? I gotta go. And I was like, yo, one, I would be so annoyed if I was Obi-Wan at that moment. I'd be like, girl, I just need to get you off this planet. But pretty quick on her feet to like realize that that's a dangerous situation,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
sure. I love the writing too, all around this. She's very distrustful, and I love that Obi-Wan has that moment with her where he says that line of, "You remind me of someone, she was strong and beautiful," and whatever he says. It was a great line, and the writing is fantastic. Anytime Obi-Wan reminisces about the past, it is such good writing, and really takes you there, man. Really takes you there. I personally also thought of Padme first, but I have seen a lot of people think about Satine online. I've heard a lot of people see that.
I am torn on that. So I was thought on both. I was like, wow, because it can work, in both instances it can work.
It's big enough.
Yeah.
So they make it that way. So I mean, because we didn't know that Leia was going to be part of the show, are they talking about Satine? Will they have a flashback where they show a Satine live action character? I'm sorry, I don't mean to make expectations a little higher than they should be, but hey.
Who even knows, man? I mean, it could be absolutely anything. And I love that go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna say I wanted to transition and talk about that combat scene before we.
Okay, that's exactly where I was going. Take us there.
Right, cool. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the rooftop scene because we saw a lot of that through the trailers, and we had a couple of different things happening in this rooftop scene, right? We had the sort of Reva arc where she's like trying to pry information out of everybody, and then she
also a literal arc as she was leaping across buildings.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is like her sort of trying to get to the action desperately was so well portrayed. I mean, it made her seem like she was insane. Like she's so close. Like she's
like a
slip out of her
tiger.
grip.
She's like just kind of like clawing her way towards these blaster shots.
Yeah, exactly. And then seeing Obi-Wan wield a blaster was phenomenal, right?
Against the dinosaur.
He sauces some people, dude.
He does, man. And there was a lot of talk, we are expanding the universe community and all that. Like there's a lot of talk that this dinosaur is from it's one of the Mind's Eye or something like that. Like
Truce at Bakura.
Oh, no way.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like he sounds like the way a character is portrayed in Truce at Bakura of being this dinosaur bounty hunter kind of guy. So that would be a great throwback if that is what that is. And he was also interesting and cool, and it was like he's fighting an alligator with a blaster on top of the roof, which was fun.
I appreciated how Obi-Wan waited for. He still waited, I guess, but he's using a blaster. He's not using the Force. He is a person to everybody that's on Daiyu right now. He's not a Jedi, except for the 3 or 4 people that are chasing him. But I mean, I appreciated how they're still keeping him like maybe he lost his powers. Maybe he doesn't know how to use the Force. So they gave us that sense of wonder before he actually revealed that he still has it in him.
Yeah,
it was a good moment too. The roof, like when Leia was falling and he had to reach out. It seemed like it was a struggle for him to access the Force. That was very well portrayed. That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, they always talk about how in a lot of the books, especially lately, I feel like in the new canon, the talks about the Force and the Jedi are on the light side. You just kind of open up and listen to the Force, and it's like a two-way street, and you're kind of asking for it and like letting it guide you and stuff. And I could really see in Ewan's performance in that moment, the back and forth. He's like asking the Force, like, please let me grab her. Please please. Like he is begging the Force to work for him, essentially. He's opening himself up for the first time probably in 10 years. And that moment of exertion when it finally works, like he's like sweating. He's barely trying so hard. And this from the guy who used to just, command the Force at will in Clone Wars and live action, like could do literally anything in the world. It was so humbling to see this be such a big effort for him. And in addition to, obviously, in the next episode, we'll talk about other things that are quite a bit harder for him than they used to be. But I love that Leia was the only thing that got him off planet. Leia's the only thing that would make him use the Force again. Like she
Mhm.
is the conduit to make Ben become Obi-Wan again. And it leads all the way until the end of this episode when Reva confronts them. And this beautiful moment of, oh, you remind me of someone. What a great thing. Gets completely ruined by Reva finding her prey. And then, Charles, I believe you're the one that put this in the outline. Talk about our Grand and Quizzy here. So, the writers have said this past week, as if they needed to, but they have said canon is canon. We are not breaking any canon. Essentially saying, watch the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So, is the Grand Inquisitor dead, Charles? Is this a clone? Did the writers, are they lying? And do they not care about animation? And actually all the live action shows think the animation is lesser? Is that what's really happening?
Not the last one,
That's
but
not
it could be any of the first couple. I mean, you know, is the Grand Inquisitor, I don't know, are there multiple people of the same species and they replace them? Is he just going to make some triumphant return? He knew what Reva was going to do and you know, he's going to metaphorically
Like,
stab
he's
her for
fine. He's
stabbing him.
fine. Look at that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's a flesh
listen,
wound.
Darth Maul got cut in half and came back
Exactly.
with spider legs.
Exactly.
Until you see somebody's head be chopped off their body, I'm not convinced anyone's ever.
I
dead in
don't
Star
even
Wars.
believe that
No,
because the head.
C-3PO got his head taken off his body.
Oh my
True,
god!
true. Yeah, but it was jarring though,
Yeah.
and actually, you know, when we take a step back and realize that the people who are making these shows know Star Wars, they understand it. Like they didn't forget
Hot
about
take.
what happened to the Grand Inquisitor in
take.
you know in Rebels.
Oh man!
When you step back and think about that, you know, it's cool that they did something like this because no one
Yeah.
would have walked into that scene watching it the first time and said, "Oh, yep, the Grand Inquisitor dies here." Like, no, that was shocking, and
Yeah.
we need those moments. And in the moments like Leia in a series where you feel like, man, I know where these characters end up. Like there might be a lack of drama for that reason. No, they're still throwing us curveballs, and that's really important, I think, to enjoy this show.
Mhm.
Yeah, completely agree. And then, of course, the curveball at the end of the episode that we all knew, but I think, at least I personally forgot that Obi-Wan did not. That not only is Vader alive, but Anakin Skywalker, name dropped, is alive. And then as he realizes this, comes to terms with it, the brilliant ending of this episode, I don't know if it was the writers, I don't know if it was Deborah Chow, I don't know whose idea it was, but as he whispers Anakin to have Hayden's eyes, bam, change, and we just see Vader's scarred body, and that's how you end this. I mean, Corey, you want to talk about how it felt to be in that theater in the first 2 episodes. The second that those eyes opened, 5,000 people erupted.
Yeah,
And I
was
think
insane.
this look at helmetless, scarred, absolutely fierce-eyed, angry Vader hanging in Bacta
I know, man.
was the perfect ending to that episode, and
Yeah.
floored me. Absolutely floored me.
Yeah, same. I mean, this is hit really, really hard. The fact that this is like, you know, all of us have been like, where's Hayden? Where's Hayden? Is he going to show up? When's he going to show up? Are they going to show it in the first 2 episodes? And then to get that, like with all those people and that huge arena was insane. I mean, it was a face melting moment.
Yeah.
Getting to see it's freaking Hayden hanging there, man.
Yeah,
It's
I need this. I need some resemblance of Hayden as Vader hanging in the Bacta and just like his eyes opening because he called for Anakin, and then I am really pulling for Hayden's voice without that mask on. That is really
some
going to
kind of
solidify
flashback
it
or
for me.
something.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
I think we're going that way.
and I think we have to, or at least I want to bring this up too, because after I got over the shock of seeing Vader and just the full body chills, I said to myself, I'm actually kind of shocked how Obi-Wan found this out. I'm kind of shocked that Reva just threw out the name Anakin Skywalker because that's not something that is really.
How does she know too?
Right? It's not super widely known, and it makes sense that maybe the Inquisitors would know this. Maybe it's like a hush hush thing that we don't talk about that, you know, or Vader will literally murder you on the spot. But it was kind of shocking to hear someone say that so nonchalantly, like Anakin Skywalker is alive and he's looking for you.
Yeah. I think my theory is that I agree that I think Reva was one of the younglings of the temple in the beginning. and I think she sees him cutting Jedi down
That'd
in
be
the
insane.
temple, and I think she recognizes him
Oh
as
wow.
Anakin.
I didn't go that far. I know. I
That's
thought
where I'm going with.
she was one.
Don't know.
She was one of the younglings, and obviously one of the younglings would know of, ultimate Anakin Skywalker, the best general in the clone army, the best Jedi ever. I mean, of course she knows him, but watching him cut down younglings, dude.
Or maybe
I'm wondering.
maybe she sees him bow down to Sidious. Remember the security hollow that Obi-Wan
Yeah,
saw?
the security
That's
footage.
right.
Yep.
3?
Vader.
Yeah, maybe she sees him. Maybe we get to see. That would be cool.
That would be
what if
cool.
we?
Yeah.
What if we get an Ian McDermott cameo?
Why
Oh,
not?
man,
Put him in
he
everything.
loves playing that character.
I know
wouldn't
he
doubt
does.
it.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if we got that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like we're also sort of getting. I think that's another reason this show hits so hard for the four of us is that it feels like we're getting bits and pieces filled in from episode 3 at the same time
Yes.
in live
Yeah.
action, which
Yes.
is wild that this is
Yeah.
even occurring.
I've heard a lot of folks say that the Mandalorian and all the New Republic shows, I love them and they all feel very much new Star Wars. Whereas this show, even though it is the newest release, it feels like prequels. This actually feels
Yep.
like Revenge of the Sith more than it feels like A New Hope. Even though it's probably
good point.
in the timeline closer to Episode 4,
Yeah.
this still feels like that. Even with the musical notes like from Natalie Holt, it definitely feels more like prequel John Williams than original trilogy John Williams. And I love just the vibe. So I
Makes
completely
sense.
agree. We're getting more of that. We get even more of it in episode 3. Before we dive into episode 3, though, we're gonna do our recap and talk about that. We're gonna take a quick couple minutes. It's a big episode today, so hang tight with us. We're gonna go refill. We're gonna take a couple minutes off, and when we get back, we're gonna dive into part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Don't go nowhere. right, and we are back talking Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got some drink refills. I got a granola bar because this is some work, y'all. I have loved these episodes, but how dare they release 3 episodes within a week of celebration? Is extraordinarily rude. But we are back chatting Obi-Wan as we did with the first 2 episodes. Now we're gonna dive into episode 3. Corey, actually, you had the great idea to give it its own discussion because I agree. Yeah. The first 2 do kind of act like a part A and B. This one, so much happened. So let's jump right into the recap, and then let's talk about the return of Darth Vader on our screens, shall we?
Oof.
So we open up with Obi-Wan dealing with the revelation of Anakin Skywalker being alive as Vader's armor is assembled before our very eyes in a way we've never seen before. We then see Vader giving Reva the assignment to hunt Obi-Wan, and if she succeeds, she's going to become Grand Inquisitor, and if she fails, well, we got plenty of Inquisitors to spare. We then go back to Obi-Wan and Leia, who make it to Mapuzo, a safe mining planet, safe quote-unquote, where they meet Freck, an Imperial bootlicker sympathizer. Sorry. He offers them a ride, and they try to hide from some Imperial patrols, but are eventually discovered by an Imperial probe droid, and troopers, and Obi-Wan has to take them out with the help of Tala, a rebel agent who is from, quote, the path. Tala then takes Obi-Wan and Leia and shows them to a safe house that's been visited by many Jedi, including the name-dropped Quinlan Voss. And on the wall was written, Corran Horn's dad. We'll get more of that in a little bit. As they prepare to leave to find a pilot to get them off planet, the Inquisitors arrive with Darth Vader himself. Leia and Tala go down the secret tunnel shaft as Obi-Wan leads Vader away from the city and to their first meeting in a decade but it's also their first meeting in like 17 years in our life. Obi-Wan and Anakin/Vader clash with lightsabers as Reva discovers the hidden passage that Tala and Leia went down. Tala then goes to help out Obi-Wan, and Leia continues by herself to go meet the pilot to escape. Obi-Wan is taken down pretty handily by Vader, who just absolutely demolishes him in lightsaber combat and begins to burn him alive, quite literally, before Tala intervenes and saves Obi-Wan for the time being. Ned, the helpful loader droid, and Tala both go to Obi-Wan and promise to get him to Jabin as Reva shows up to take Leia away after killing the pilot. Vader looks into the flames, realizes this will not be the time to kill Obi-Wan, and exits as well. So guys, obviously, biggest moment in this episode, the return of Hayden Vader, lightsaber in tow, finding his master. I am what you made me. Your suffering has only just begun. Okay, I don't know. Where do we start with? Quinlan Voss, that was neat. I love that. I mean, come on. This episode was amazing.
I said this in when we were talking about it earlier. Never has a Star Wars project, animation, movie, live action, anything emotionally affected me as much as this episode did. Seriously. Like I walked away with this, like for the full day, the next day after we watched this episode. I watched it on Wednesday and I had to work part of the day. So an hour and a half commute, and I was listening to Brotherhood. I was finishing up Brotherhood by Mike Chen, really, really great book. A lot about Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I just had this really heavy, like melancholy sadness feeling. Like, you watch a movie or a TV show or something and it like maybe it's sad or it just leaves you feeling like a kind of emotionally empty, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it. Melancholy is probably the closest you can get to describing it. I felt like that for the whole day, just reflecting on Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship and like how far Anakin had fallen. And I was like tossing around this question in my head for the whole day. Why did Anakin turn to the dark side? How is that possible? I mean, I know that is like the question in the Star Wars saga, right? The Skywalker saga is, why did Anakin fall? That is the purpose of all the movies essentially, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's something different about seeing evil Vader and seeing him face Obi-Wan, and it was visceral and violent and gruesome and like grotesque in a way that we've never seen before. And it's been discussed, and you've seen it in comics, and there's the comic where Vader is surrounded by all these people. Is like all that I see, all that I am surrounded by is fear and dead men. Like, we've seen the epicness of Vader, but we've never seen like psychotic murderer killer Vader. And this was scary. And to see Obi-Wan's reaction to realizing that Anakin is alive at the same time as getting this violent, gruesome lure him out. I mean, it affected me like heavily, like for the whole day after watching it. And like, I think the entire episode warrants its own discussion, like by itself, which is why I said we should talk about this one by itself, is because I just felt so emotionally impacted by this. But I do have to say, I loved the episode. I loved the reuniting of Obi-Wan and Anakin, and the way that the lightsaber combat was done, like the way that we see Hayden for a split second on screen earlier. I want to talk more about that later on. But like, just the transition of day to night was beautiful, and for Obi-Wan to truly be facing Vader in the dark was just such a beautiful touch, and it was scary. Vader dragging him through the fire. Never thought I would ever see something like that on screen. It was violent, most violent thing we've ever seen in Star Wars, and it like messed me up for a full day, guys. Full day.
It was horrifying. And real quick, Charles, I just want to touch, I'm going to forget this, but Charles, in our preview episode of Bounty Hunt, you said the moment you were waiting for was the time that Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber for the first time. And I just real quick wanted to get you, before we like go bit by bit on this episode, I wanted to call your prediction, because this was the moment. And I think it was in a much different kind of circumstance than we had felt. But did you get those same chills? Or was it a completely different kind of visceral experience for you seeing him ignite that bad boy?
It was admittedly overshadowed by all of the just sick and twisted and dark things we just seen Vader do, to be honest with you. I mean, is it still heroic, and does it still look badass? And did I still kind of cheer in the moment? Yes. But at the same time, I think coming into the show, I was still in my, just finished watching Revenge of the Sith. This is like the age of heroes. I was still in that mindset. And in the first two episodes, like we just talked about, really showed that this is a different Obi-Wan. He's much closer to old Ben, crazy wizard hermit out in the desert, than he is to that age of heroes Obi-Wan. And so it wasn't that triumphant moment. I was scared for Obi-Wan, even knowing that he gets out of that. I was scared for Obi-Wan in that moment.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wes, what were you going to say before I cut you off there?
Oh, I was just going to, you know what? Oh, I was just going to say the way the light played off of it, played off of Obi-Wan's face and played off of Vader. The way that look, just completely bashed his face in blue, and then Vader was completely bashed in red. So they really played up the hero and villain just by the colors that they showed, and it was really prominent whenever he first. I'm trying to find this right part right here for everybody to see. But,
it's like they did with Han and Kylo and TFA, and how they did with Anakin and Asajj. And
I love that. With him looking through the lightsaber, with it being on screen, and he's like trying to see past it, like it was just, it's scary. It made Vader so scary. Look at this. You can see his Vader, his suit. That's all you can
blends
see.
Into the back, and then when he ignites its lightsaber, you can see the full silhouette.
Just the red. I know. It just cast everywhere. And like,
look at the shock on his face.
I know. No, we got a little bit of scary Vader in Rogue One, but this was different, man. The way he walked through that village and casually broke that guy's neck and dragged that person out of the window, and then dragged that lady through the street, and then that is like, alongside. Then the camera flashes to Obi-Wan, and he's like hiding, looking through the thing, and you can't see it, but you can hear the woman screaming as Vader is dragging her through the street. That was just so violent and grotesque.
A lot of what we've seen him do has at least, and this is, I'm doing some mental gymnastics here, but at least it's been military related. Like you mentioned that comics panel, he killed 1 million people in that scene, but they were all rebel soldiers. That hallway scene, which I would argue is probably the closest thing we've seen to the Vader that we saw in episode 3. Those were all rebel soldiers, right? But he was casually strolling through town, just literally torturing and murdering innocent civilians. I mean, it was grotesque.
It
Yeah,
was.
and yeah,
It was.
the idea
It
of
shook me. It really
yeah.
did. It shook me to my core. And Obi-Wan's reaction was beautifully portrayed when he sensed him on the planet for the first time, and like the sound kind of dampened, and you could tell that it's like somebody hearing a grenade go off. That's why they have that, how they have that portrayed in movies where it's like silent, they can't really hear anything. Like there was that sort of sound effect. And like then Vader's entrance, Wes, you just showed it. Like it starts with his boots, then it shows his cape, then it shows his gloved fist, then it shows his lightsaber. Like it was a scary entrance. I've never seen Vader so well portrayed. Like they nailed this so utterly well of bringing in Anakin as Vader, man. And also the other thing I was going to say, I said I was going to comment on it earlier. We all felt like this is Hayden in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For the first time, honestly.
Hayden. I can see him in the suit. I can see Hayden. And I talked about this earlier. I realized this. We saw Hayden in a Jedi robe earlier for a split second.
Yep.
Obi-Wan had that sort of
has that
vision thing, right? And it kind of freaked him out or whatever. I think that creative choice is what made me visualize Hayden in it, because I saw him first. I saw him in the episode before I saw Vader. Yeah. So like that in turn with all the marketing and everything, I saw Anakin in the suit and not David Prowse or whoever. Vader was always kind of this robotic person, right? I think in the past, but this was different. It felt like Hayden.
Yeah, and I think the horrifying part about that, we realized it's there's that clip of actually Hayden Christensen in the Jedi robe, subconsciously seeding into both us and Obi-Wan what we're about to see. And I think the psychological implications of this for Obi-Wan are devastating for so many reasons. The first one being, one, I've lived with the guilt of killing my brother for a decade and I didn't. Two, it's somehow worse than if I had. And I think that like those combined would shatter anyone, and then having to physically use a lightsaber again, which I love that he got his ass kicked because he hasn't used one in 10 years, and it's still Anakin.
It's been buried in a flipping desert. He told that other Jedi to take it and toss it out into the desert. Like he hasn't held the damn thing in 10 years.
He's horrified by Vader, who has been doing nothing but killing people with it for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I think the brilliance of all of the stuff with Obi-Wan finding Anakin again is that he is still trying to be a hero, because his main objective is still to protect Leia. He's still trying to protect Leia, even though he's trying to reckon with all this stuff for the last 10 years. Still realizes Anakin. The question of what have you become is an earnest question. He's like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I have no idea what this beast is.
What is this?
And did I do this? Mm-hmm. Are you going to kill her? Do you have a daughter? Do I tell, it's all these things that he never quite knew.
He has to hide that stuff. That's in the Force, right? I mean, you can kind of learn stuff through the Force, right? So he's having to deal with all that at the same time. Like, it was just a lot of emotion in this episode, and I feel like they totally nailed it. I'm like getting worked up thinking about it. Like it's really like
Anakin has been thinking that Obi-Wan left him there to die. Like he could have helped him. He could have drug his charred ass off the melted lake there, but he left him there to die. And he's been thinking that for 10 years. He's like, he never helped me. He hates me.
He absolutely hates him. He hates him. Like that was Anakin's last words to him, right?
Yeah, you cut off my legs. You're the reason I had these.
Wait
you
a second.
The reason you put me in fire. You're the reason that I had these.
What was his last words, Corey?
I hate
you! Yep, that was it.
But that
I live in an apartment now. I'm gonna have to keep that shit down.
Anyway. But that moment, y'all, when we realized what Vader was intending to do, when he ignited that fire, my jaw was on the floor. Yeah, I was like, this is the most twisted thing. Like, because, I mean, what Obi-Wan did was messed up to him. Of course it was, but he deserved it. He was evil. He was so evil.
It was on a lava planet, too. It was on a lava. Look at this casual. Look how slow he does it. Yes. Right, he slowly lights it with the lightsaber.
And he didn't light him on fire. He didn't burn him intentionally. Obviously, that's what happened. But it wasn't his plan to throw him in the lava. This was so just premeditated, and
sadistic.
He has pictured this exact amount of this exact act he is probably pictured daily since the last time that he saw Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's just
and probably fuels his power as a Sith to make him even stronger, right? Just
This is the
thinking about
alternate
doing
ending
that.
for the Revenge of the Sith video game. Like that's literally what he did.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's so visceral and horrifying. And before we go even further down this to the ending of it, how he gets out of it, I actually want to backtrack a little bit because I want to talk about Freck for a second, guys.
Okay.
Freck is such a fascinating character, mole man bastard, and who for your Scrubs fans out there, played by Zach Braff. Did not know, but the voice was bugging me. But yeah, he got to be in Star Wars, and this character, for me,
The worst.
was
I hate
terrifying in
Such a nice
would've
guy,
liked to
though,
see-
right?
I wish Vader had burned this guy through the fire. Like, he
I
sucked, man.
completely agree. Well, this is the guy. This is, I think, the most relatable terror to me, because this is the guy that's like, oh man, no, like we all just love the Empire, right? I'm just trying to be a good citizen, right? Like you're not one of the bad ones. Like this is the fascist Nazi guy that's just like, yes, officers. Like this is the terrifying guy, because he will rat you out. He will rat out his neighbors. He'll rat out anyone to get in good with the totalitarian government. And he has that homemade, hand-painted imperial flag on the back that someone put it on Twitter or in Slack, that it's like the Confederate flag on the back of a pickup truck. Like it is the exact same kind of vibe. That's like, ooh, you think you are in the right, and everyone is gonna applaud you. And obviously it doesn't work out for him, but like I love the insertion of this character and his temperament, because it was the most kind of realistic view
I was
of what these guys would be like.
I was afraid for Obi-Wan in this situation, because this guy, he was like, I don't trust him. Like he seems really scary. He looks like a rat too. He's got like rat teeth.
Literally.
I know. It's the worst. Yeah, it's I hated this guy. That was a cool shot though. I love that analogy with the flag and thing. Like it's that was a cool shot when Obi-Wan like kind of paused and hesitated when they all got on board. He's like, oh shit, like I don't know if I should trust this person.
It's the only car we got. I didn't take it now.
I didn't take that was a homemade flag. That makes it even better. Like he's like really trying to be part of the Empire. He helps them whenever transport broke down again. Oh yeah, just like always. It helps the stormtroopers to their next checkpoint. So
yeah.
If
also
you've ever seen a kind of a Holocaust movie, like The Pianist or Schindler's List, like it has those types of vibes. So people are running, they don't know who to trust, and like there's this sort of constant lurking fear. Is this person that is part of this complex system to try to get me to safety, is this person trustworthy, or is this a scam? You know, am I about to get killed? Like it's just terrifying. Like it's just makes your palms sweat the whole time, you know.
It's also so interesting that Freck is an alien, because we all know that the Empire is very xenophobic. Like they hate aliens. So this is the guy that's like, dude, these people hate you, but Freck is clearly so convinced that like, well, if I turn over enough bad people, then I'll get to be a stormtrooper or something. It's like, bro, you will never be a stormtrooper. They think you're gross, but you provide a service. And I think that's also very real. Like to your point, Corey, in those movies, there's always that character as well, who is like the hated party, but they're the turncoat, and it's just like, it just churned the stomach, while also showcasing even more how quick like Leia is in this moment. Like she was spouting off their story. And their cover story worked out.
Which she nailed again, by the way. The actress, freaking like 10 years old. The dialogue was delivered flawlessly. It was such beautiful storytelling, and like the writing is excellent. Her delivery was excellent. I really loved all the moments between. There were some kind of tender moments in there too, of like Obi-Wan saying like Leia, that was her mother, and he's thinking about Padme. Like it's obvious that he's thinking about Padme in this moment, and like it was good. It was good.
And her question of did you know my mother?
I know. Or no, she asked him,
are you my
real father?
She also asked
that's
him,
what it was. That's what it
yeah,
was.
she asked him point blank, are you my real father? I was like, holy shit, that is the heaviest thing. Like she wants to know and feels something maybe in the force between them. Like are you my real father? Like, holy crap. I cannot believe they threw that in there. That was such good dialogue.
Yeah. And someone made a great point I don't know if this is intentional or not, but obviously Leia's outfits, costuming wise, have been going through the trilogy. You know, she starts in the white and then goes to the red for Empire and then goes to the Endor. But her braids in this moment, her braid is down in a similar way to a Padawan braid, to a Padawan rat tail at this point. As her hair gets slowly undone, she's becoming more of a Padawan and a learner of Obi-Wan. And I love that the things she's picking up on him, that eventually this all leads to A New Hope when Luke Skywalker says, I'm here with Ben Kenobi. And she says, Ben Kenobi? Like, she knows Ben because of this now. And I'm like, oh, you are on your way to trusting him with anything. And Angelia, right where we're going next, we mentioned in this, or Obi-Wan mentions in this, that he remembers some things about his childhood. Because Leia's like, I can't remember my mother, and Obi-Wan's like, I remember my mother's soul, and I had a brother.
Yes, I cannot believe they just casually dropped that in here. That was interesting. It'd be funny. It would be cool if they gave Ewan McGregor's actual brother a cameo.
The fighter pilot.
I love it.
Yeah. That's the fun non-Star Wars fact for anybody that doesn't already know it. Obi-Wan's brother is in like the Royal Air Force or whatever it's called, and his call sign is Obi-2, which is fantastic. In real life, Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I love all that. And then, of course, we get the great fight, which I thought was going to be the brutal thing of the episode when the Stormtrooper gets, like, bisected by the laser wire. I'm like, that was awesome.
Apparently, Obi-Wan has been practicing with the blaster because he utterly kicked ass in that scene.
Couldn't miss.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't miss.
Didn't miss.
Yeah, he's like, it's uncivilized, but I still know how to use it. I mean, he sharp shot Grievous, so, like,
that's true.
He knows how to use that thing. But then they get picked up by Tala, and I
got cut in half
this
too. By the way, we didn't mention that the guy when he fell over the
laser wire,
gate, cut in half. That was amazing.
Why not? And Leia's like, I'm 10.
I'm 10.
I did like that she was kind of shaken by the violence too, though. There were some moments afterwards where she was like really kind of messed up, and Obi-Wan had to kind of take over again.
Which
she
is
never
like
saw that
good.
on Alderaan.
Yeah. Yeah,
no.
And then that other lady showed up. What's her name?
Yeah, Tala.
Yeah.
Character. I loved her. The actress from Game of Thrones. So love seeing her again, and I really enjoyed the. I didn't need another like ex Imperial. I love that it was all a cover from the start, and she introduces us to now the path of these people that have been funneling kids for years. And what I loved about it specifically is Obi-Wan seeing it, realizing it exists, and I think he feels guilty that he hasn't been a part of it, and that he maybe could have helped more kids.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, if he'd have been able to help, well, see, that's the thing. He's always been fixated on watching Luke, making sure he's okay, until he starts showing that he's force sensitive. He's under the impression that Owen is going to be okay with him just being trained to be a Jedi. And then even though Owen has seen the heartache and all the pain that the Jedi and the Empire have caused, he doesn't want that for his new son, even though that's his nephew.
Well, and I think it's important too that Obi-Wan, it seemed shook when he saw this, when he saw these names on the walls, and I agree with what you're saying, Eric. But it's interesting to think about the fact that he saw this and then he continued on thinking, no, Luke is the hope, Luke is the hope, Luke is the hope. And I think it's sort of a human thing to, when you've committed time and effort into something, you want to believe this is the choice. This is the only thing that makes sense. There is no plan B. Like, this is it. So it makes sense that he sees this, he has all of this experience with Leia and somehow still goes back to saying this, the boy is our last hope, and Yoda having to say, no, there's another, because he's already spent a decade on Luke at this point. So he sees this, and I think it impacts him very deeply. You can tell, as you're showing us, as he's touching these names on the walls and he's remembering some of these people like Quinlan, he ultimately rejects that. He's like, no, this can't be the answer. It's still Luke.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to see what happens on Jabin now in the next episode, which I assume is where we're going. She's like, we got to get him to Jabin. I'm like, cool. is Quinlan Voss gonna be there? Or is someone else gonna be there?
I can't believe they named her Quinlan Voss because
Right.
like that character he's such a fan favorite, and like
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he wasn't like a real character like until well after Phantom Menace, right?
No.
Like he was
Yeah.
made like there's a character in Phantom Menace when Saboba meets Jar Jar, and there's the whole scene. There's this guy in the background. He's got the face makeup that
Yep.
Quinlan Voss has. Like that character was built from that. Like that was a retcon.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Hey,
Oh.
look, there's Quinlan Voss. Like that was the original character, and they were like, hey, let's make this guy a Jedi and
Yeah.
make him doing undercover work on Tatooine. And now that whole story has been developed. But like when Phantom Menace came out, that wasn't like a Jedi named Quinlan Voss. It was some
Yeah.
random background character, right?
Well, and there are episodes of Clone Wars with Quinlan and Obi-Wan
Yeah.
working side by
Exactly.
side. So maybe
Exactly.
go
Who's the
back
hot
and watch
shot?
those before
they
next
don't really
week.
get along either. That's
No.
why it's so
Well,
fascinating.
and I'm also just saying, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who's Ice Cube's son, is in 3 episodes of this show, and we have not seen him yet.
That's true.
And if you want someone with some
Interesting.
swagger,
And
who knows?
and I think we're 100% out of all the footage that we saw in the trailers. Like I think we've
I believe
seen
so.
all
Yeah,
of
we've
that.
seen
So
we've seen
e-
Fortress Inquisitorius now.
Yeah.
yeah.
We've seen
So everything moving forward is
yeah.
going to be new.
Let's
I
talk
mean-
about the other names really quick too that are on the wall because there are 2
Yeah.
more. One of them I don't think is relevant. We don't know who that is, but the other one is Halcyon something, which is famously the name of the Jedi of Corran Horn's father.
Corran Horn's father's name is on there, and the
What?
little boy who gets saved by Haja Estri in the previous episode is listed in the credits as Corran. Is literally
Yeah.
the kid's name.
Uh-oh,
So the
Corey.
fact of that mixed
know,
with
I know.
this means there is I would say higher than 50% chance that they're telling us
Horn.
that kid is Corran Horn.
I think it is, and I think they're setting us up for Corran Horn to be in the Rogue Squadron movie, which is fine with me. I'm totally fine with Corran Horn as long as they make him like less of
Yeah,
a
I think he'll
a
be written better.
chauvinist, misogynist, as long as they make him
Yeah.
like a normal, decent person instead of talking about all the women that he meets seductively. Like, come
Yeah.
on, like as long as they make him a decent person, is fine. He needs
Yeah,
better
sure they
character
do.
development than he had in the X-Wing books. I'm listening to the second X-Wing book now, like the audiobook or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
he is just as obnoxious of a character in that. I'm really shocked that he is as much of a fan favorite as I think he has to be nostalgia. On the record, I
Yep.
still don't like Corran Horn. Let's just keep going with that.
But he's probably back. That's the thing. He's
Sounds
probably
like he's
in.
back. I cannot believe it. What I'm not sure that there is a more obscure, not obscure. I mean that is the right word. A more obscure kind of quote unquote main character from the EU that they could pull into live action stuff. Like we got the Wookiee guy, right? Chrysanthemum. We got Black Chrysanthemum, right? That's quite the pull. But to pull a named character from Legends who's a
Corran
fighter
Horn.
pilot, that's quite the stretch. And I
Who-
cannot
Valen
believe it.
Halcyon.
Who would you pick in his place if it wasn't Corran Horn that they had
Mara
chosen?
Jade. Mara Jade, no question. Mara Jade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
hey,
take Mara Jade over Corran Horn.
After a quick little Google here, there's 2 others apparently that got seen. This is again, I'm
Thank you,
just
Jimmy Wang, for
Googling
subscribing.
because people looked at the Arabesh here. There's also 2 more apparently. Ragonda Ismarin, who was an
that was the other
Alderanian.
one. Uh-huh.
Yep, and then Jin Altus was also
Yeah.
found.
I didn't recognize the other 2
On there as
names.
well.
There's a lot of talk about the whole Corran Horn thing in our community, as
Yeah.
you can imagine, because of my famous hate
Yeah.
by Jedi.
It was pretty.
But
It was pretty great.
that was cool. That was a cool touch. I also, to get us back on track here, I also really enjoyed Reva being so visibly upset that this thing existed. Like she seemed to realize immediately what this was, right when she came through
Yeah.
the room, and that was cool. That was really cool. And I also very
Yeah.
much enjoyed the droid as
Ned!
well. Right?
Oh, the loader.
Ned B.
The loader droid. I 100% thought it was the Master Chief, and I forgot what show I was watching for a minute. When they showed him from
I
behind,
didn't even put that together. That's 100%.
listen, when they
true.
showed him from behind, he looked exactly like the Master Chief from Halo. 100% exactly
Oh,
like
you
him.
mean when he was holding that hammer, ready to absolutely murder people with
Yes!
a blunt weapon?
Yes, that was great. I was really hoping he was going to smash Stormtrooper's head with that hammer. I was really hoping he was.
Yeah,
that was.
I was proud
that
of our
was
boy.
badass. And Caitlin, my wife, so astutely pointed out that the droids have truly been involved in the rebellion since the beginning, all the way back
Yes.
to R2, carrying the plans for the Death Star. Like that's such a cool pull that like droids are even in this early underground stuff. I mean, this has all got to be connected to the rebellion, right? That's what it's
Yeah.
implying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, droids saved the day, and they saved the lives of the Jedi, of people, of Sith,
I know.
everything.
Over
If the
and over
droids
again.
weren't around, there'd be a shorter story than you think.
I mean, that's why Lucas always said the droids were the hero. R2 is the hero of the story.
Yeah,
That's
You know,
right.
R2 and 3PO
right.
start it. Yeah, I loved his involvement in there, and I mean, literally at the end, he's there as well, lifting Obi-Wan off the ground after this giant fire blazes off.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
Darth,
hit that.
Why did Darth Vader? That was an interesting story progression that Darth
Yes.
Vader let them leave.
I agree.
Why did that? Because he did. He let
Yeah.
them leave.
Yes.
I think that has to
Yeah.
be the only way to think about it. There's no way that he didn't just like walk through that freaking fire, man. Like and go get him. Like, why
Yeah,
did he do this?
I think for me at least, his goal is for Obi-Wan to suffer, right? I think
Mhm.
Obi-Wan suffered in there, and I think this would have turned into a battle, and I wonder if there's a possibility of like, if we go now, a stray bullet hits Obi-Wan and he dies, and I don't get the satisfaction of that. So
Hmm.
being like, you know what? Let him sit in his torture and his suffering for a while. I found him now. I will find him again.
Give this
You know,
shot.
Yeah.
Vader is patient. I think that's the Grand Inquisitor says, right? Hunting is patience. Vader is
Right.
a patient.
Well, Vader has
Dude.
probably taught the Grand Inquisitor how to hunt Jedi, right? So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anakin did famously say in episode 3, I say patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
One time in his whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also think there is a moment in that clip you just showed, Wes, where Vader looks in the fire. I don't think it's full on like a PTSD moment, but I do think that Vader hesitates a little bit more than we'd think before going into fire. I think
away
there is a
quickly.
moment of that.
Mhm.
You ever had
Um,
food poisoning, and then the next time you see that food, you're like,
Like,
I
maybe
don't know.
not.
I'm
That's
still
what
I'm
you
still I'm still a little iffy about food trucks right now because of my last
Yeah.
experience in Nashville. So yeah.
So yeah,
for
letting
sure.
letting Obi-Wan go is probably calculated to where that's going to screw with his mind the entire time until they
Yeah.
meet again, right? That's just going to keep him awake. He's not going to get any sleep. He's going to be thinking, "Oh my God, why didn't I save Anakin? Or why didn't I try to apprehend
Is this
him
the
at least, not really save him?"
That's a good question that you kind of made me think of, Wes. Is this the end of Obi-Wan and Vader in this show, you think?
Nah.
no.
You
I mean,
don't think so?
that's the thing.
I don't
Maybe.
know.
I
Can't
assume
be.
it's not, but
I assume
I
it's
assume
not
it's
as
not.
well. I assume it's not as well. I will say, managing expectations is really hard for, prequels that are kids like us. Really hard to manage expectations properly. I will say I'll be a little disappointed if we don't get any more Hayden and Vader, like true
Yeah.
Hayden. I think I really want to see that. I want to see Hayden without the suit on, like seeing him and Ewan's just like standing ovation and celebration was so
Ugh.
meaningful to me. Like it seems
Yeah.
like they've really come around to the idea that the fans really did love them and all that. So I hope we get more Hayden. I really want to see more Hayden. Please
Yeah.
give me
Too.
more.
I think it's
but
likely.
I
I think
think,
that Reva is definitely going to take like the charge on the hunt now. But I think that Vader's going to be there, and I am still holding out hope that will not be destroyed if it doesn't happen. But I do think some kind of Clone Wars flashback with Anakin
Reva.
and Obi-Wan is still on the table.
Yeah, I think that's on the table, and I think the Reva flashback is still on the table, and also we haven't talked about this yet because it's such a small detail. It's kind of almost easy to miss because we're so overwhelmed with how epic the Obi-Wan Vader stuff is. Like Inquisitor Reva's got Leia now. Like what the hell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is scary. What is going to happen with little girl Leia and Reva? I mean,
See, that's my question too, because Obi-Wan is obviously going to go recuperate a little bit and then go after her. That has to be what happened. So where is she taking her? And I think there's two likely possibilities.
Oh my God, say it, Carl.
Both of which are insane to think about Obi-Wan showing up at, and those
Do
are
it.
Fortress Inquisitorius or Vader's castle.
Holy
I think she's going to Vader's castle.
Man.
Oh my god!
I think
if
he is
that
going to draw
happens.
Obi-Wan there for a rematch on Mustafar. That's my guess.
Oh boy.
my
Insane.
Oh boy, is right, Wes. Holy
Oh
smokes!
man.
I'm
We're
not
gonna
sure
go
if I-
right back down to the bank of the lava where we last saw each other. and I'm going to be on the high ground, and you're going to be on that piece of crap that's in the lava. And let's see how well you do.
Yeah. I think there's because
Obi-Wan was burned as hell too at the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
He was in that fire for a long time.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to Jabin where there are going to be Jedi. I think he's going to be force healed or deal with something there.
Maybe he'll stop by that hospital on the asteroid and get those birthing droids that so utterly failed to take care.
Let's cut his arm off.
Maybe they'll be a little more competent this time and can save his life when they couldn't save Padme's. Damn it!
That'd be a little rough. They'd be like, I don't know. I think his arm's dead. No, just heal it. Nope, cut it off. Gotta go, guys. Yeah, that'll be something. But I do think that we're gonna get them drawing Obi-Wan back to them. I don't think that they're gonna be chasing Obi-Wan to Jabin. I think this is again let the Jedi hunt himself. Let the Jedi hunt himself. He's gonna come to the girl, and I think Leia in Episode 4 says Vader. I thought I she knows Vader when she sees him, right? She knows Tarkin, but there could be in a world where they've met before. I don't know if they're going to go that way, but it's not going to break canon if they do.
Vader. Yeah, she immediately recognized him. That was a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. But I mean, maybe someone like Vader is very well recognizable in the rebellion. That would also kind of make sense. They had pictures of him up. Public Enemy #1.
Dartboards.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if it's written well enough, it'll make sense.
I have one final thought that I wanted to kind of conclude with and wrap up with, if that's okay with you guys. I've seen a little bit of discourse online. We actually had a bit of a troll show up in our chat earlier to comment about why did Obi-Wan get his ass kicked by Vader when he so utterly destroyed Maul later on in Rebels. And I stumbled on this Twitter post that was a screenshot of something from Reddit. So this is like social media montage. My
goodness, go for it.
I want to read it to you. Because this is a very beautiful thought and kind of wraps up the idea of Obi-Wan and Anakin very nicely. And it's titled, Obi-Wan died on Mustafar alongside Anakin. And it says, from a character perspective, Obi-Wan never made it back from Mustafar, just like Anakin. Anakin was reborn as Darth Vader, whereas Obi-Wan just lost all sense of the man that he was. Within just a few hours, Obi-Wan lost everything he lived for when Order 66 was executed. His home, his Jedi family, the Republic, the war he'd been fighting for so long. He had to kill his best friend and pupil, and it didn't even matter. The Republic failed nonetheless. And Anakin only became something worse than Obi-Wan could have ever imagined. Ben Kenobi is a walking dead man with nothing left to fight for. Even his quest to protect Luke feels pointless, with Owen ostracizing and standing between him and what little sense of duty or purpose he has left. You can extrapolate it to any kind of trauma response or mental illness you want, but what matters is that Ben is not General Kenobi, Master Jedi Knight who bested Anakin Skywalker. He's just a broken man who has to find a reason to live for again, and that's what Leia can give him, even if it means he has to confront the truth about Anakin once and for all. And that was a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
That's from
they call her Blossom on Reddit is the username. I'll give him credit.
I mean,
I hadn't thought about that.
Sense.
Obi-Wan was a changed man after Mustafar, but I never thought about it in the sense you think about Anakin, because it's like Anakin was killed essentially on Mustafar is how you can kind of think about it in your head. And maybe you can kind of think about that with Obi-Wan as well.
That kind of really broke Ben or Obi-Wan, because as a Jedi, you're not supposed to be attached by anything. And he had that attachment to Anakin as being his brother, as being somebody that he loved, and then stripped away from him. Just by both relationship, and he thought he was dead. So that's interesting to see how Obi-Wan, as the quintessential Jedi, actually is suffering from that attachment that is plaguing his mind right now, especially in this episode.
I also think it's interesting, when you ask why did he have an easier time with Maul in Rebels, I think there's a very real possibility that after this adventure, right, is over, Obi-Wan had his lightsaber in the desert for 10 years, and in Rebels, it is on his hip when Maul arrives. I think that Obi-Wan loses
back.
Leia. Well, I also think that he learns.
Got her group back.
He's like, you know what? Leia got taken twice. Vader beat me. I wasn't able to protect Leia. If anyone comes for Luke on Tatooine, I cannot protect him now like I swore to. So I think that he's going to, he is going to have to like, all right, I got to train again, because if anyone comes here to get Luke, I don't think he realized that he couldn't do anything.
Great point.
At this point, I think he's got, because he's now lost Leia. He's like, I can't lose 2 Skywalkers like this, so I'm going to have to get my moves back. So by the time that Maul does come, he's like, all right, I have trained enough since this series to reconnect. And yeah, Rocky, like, maybe have connected with Qui-Gon since then as well, and been like, all right, I opened myself back up to the Force. I am now back in tune because I learned now that I can't not be.
I'd be shocked if we don't get that for sure.
Qui-Gon.
I think it's gonna happen.
I know.
Yeah.
I think it is too. Oh man, I'm glad we finally get to talk about this. Like 2 hours.
So good. It's so good.
This is such a good show. I'm enjoying Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think at the midpoint more so than I've ever enjoyed any other Star Wars project. Like this has just been so much fun. It is everything that I wish for. I mean, it's fun. It's so much fun. I'm having a blast. Like
this is it, and this is my opinion. This is the best, easily head and shoulders above the rest. The best Star Wars live action TV that we've had.
I agree.
I think it's going to continue. What's the difference? I don't know. Ewan McGregor? Maybe.
Who even knows? But like
the emotion.
I'd like to end on one last shot that I found. I was just scrolling through episode 3. I love how you say that. And you could see the size difference in Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan. Like,
holy
with,
shit.
With the suit,
wow,
it makes him look like he's 1.5 feet taller than Obi-Wan.
Wow,
and he's one-handing the whole time, by the way.
I know. That was great. That was great. I love the lightsaber combat. Like how Obi-Wan seemed just so shaken and weak, and Vader just utterly kicked his ass with one hand. I mean, it was like very much Dooku versus Anakin vibes, like from episode 2, you know, like he's just such a master swordsman. And I also love that detail in Brotherhood, you know, no spoilers, but in Brotherhood, it kind of talks about Anakin getting used to his metal arm.
Yeah.
It's so good
2.
there.
That is constantly brought up. I love that part.
Yeah. Like he's like getting used to it. And there's a moment where he realizes that he needs to stop thinking about it as if it's a replacement for his arm, and instead thinking about it like it's a new thing. It's a tool and it's super strong, and he should be using that. And like this is Vader where we see that, where he's such a machine and like scary and powerful and strong, and like we very much saw that. Also, we didn't talk about this earlier, but the montage at the very beginning where they plugged them all in and everything, we've seen the helmet, you know, and the seal. We've seen that multiple times. It was a lot. The more machine now than man line really
hits.
A lot of sharp attachments.
Oh my God. Jared in the chat says very much Corey in real life versus how tall I thought he was going to be. Come on.
Yeah, you're a giant, Corey. That's what we're saying.
Listen, I had multiple people tell me, including listeners that we ran into at Celebration, tell me that I was taller than I thought they were. I felt like Grievous. It was ridiculous. I'm like, come on. I'm normal height.
Man. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. If these first 3 episodes are the first half, which I guess is historically, you know, the lead up to the really intense stuff to the second half of the season, I can't only imagine what we're going to be in for. Going forward, we're going to be bounty hunting on the weekends, 1 episode at a time. We're hoping to get back on our rhythm. And of course, every Monday, we're still going to be back on The Living Force. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about Celebration again, part 2, kind of recapping everything that happened, honestly, from the second day on at Celebration. So we hope we see you then. If you have thoughts about Obi-Wan Kenobi, jump into our Discord in the Obi-Wan Kenobi channel. Use spoiler tags. Please be very respectful, or throw them in the comments of this video. Or if you're listening on audio, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed it. I know we just went around and did it again, but before we get on out of here, Charles, you very specifically, I want to give you the last word. This is your boy. This is Obi-Wan. If you could describe these first 3 episodes in 1 sentence, lead us out with that.
Oh man, okay. I think that this show has been immaculate in showing us Ben Kenobi rather than Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what this show has done up to this point. And now we get to see how this broken man becomes the hero that we see him be in episode 4.
0 to hero, just like that. Hercules. All right. On that, thank you, everyone, for checking out this week's episode of Bounty Hunt. Keep your eyes out for our next hunt, and we'll be diving into episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. A special thank you to OK Endar, Brian Dooley, Patrick Ortiz, Earl Q, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. Go ahead and tell us all your thoughts about Obi-Wan Kenobi in our Discord community at utini.com/discord, and follow the main show on Twitter at LivingForcePod and at utini_US. Individually, we are at Eric Eilerson, at Corey M. Helton, at C. Henkel, and at Boss Wes. Until next time, my God, that was an Obi-Wan Kenobi television show. Woohoo!